Hello, and welcome to the latest Data Dialogues podcast, brought to you by the Data Vault Innovators community. This is our new feature called Tech Tips, where we unpack a data question for you in 5 minutes or less. This week's Tech Tip is brought to you by Nols Ebersohn and is sponsored by Ignition. Welcome, Nols, and what will you be breaking down for us this week?
Thank you, Richard, and thank you for the warm welcome. Today I'm talking about ghost records. Should we be scared? Should these ghosts be a problem for us? The first thing we're going to look at is a couple of challenges. What if we ingest all of our data at the same time or don't have all of our data coming in at the same time? Standard agile practices would have us incrementally building out our data. So what if the history in our tables differ in the depth of information that they have? So we have these two particular challenges that we need to solve: the depth of the historical context that we have, and how do we deal with it from a consumption perspective and make that simple. This introduces what's called a ghost record. It's a default singular row that's added to every single data vault structure. It is typically inserted when you create the table. So if you have a good automation framework, it should include the insert of this default row into as part of your DDL or your table creation code as such. And we typically give it a nice short default value. If you want to use hex, 0xFF is an excellent abbreviation or ghost record, because no hash function will ever give you a 0xFF value as such as an output. So there is no chance of any collision. And of course, in text, you can simply have 4 zeros. So what does it look like? In your hub, you will have a ghost record being inserted, and you will simply say that the record source is system generated. It has the benefit that it brings structures such on NoSQL platforms. It'll initialize those tables for you, and so you can continue as you can't load or create an empty table. In our links, we will have similarly the same ghost record for each of those respective business keys or hubs represented in the link structure, and it therefore maintains referential integrity as well. And so it goes for satellites as well. So it gives you a consistent starting point for all of your history, because it's a default row, because it gives you a specific historical time slice. It means that if you can't find a particular row, you can default to that consistent row so that equi-joins or left or right joins are essentially working correctly as expected. And this allows you to do time travel, so to speak, to align your histories for where history does not exist. It will never be tracked. It will never have any details change for it. It is a static record. And as mentioned before, it helps to initialize structures on NoSQL platforms, for instance, which cannot create empty tables, if that is the constraint you have to deal with. It is an important aspect that we leverage in point-in-time and bridge tables for query performance, because it gives you a consistent record to directly interact with, and so boosts performance considerably. So here's an example in our data. As we can see, we've got two different satellites. We've got a demographic satellite, which changes infrequently, and we have a lifetime value satellite, and each one of them started at a different period in time. So there's a staggered history, there's a different rate of change that's occurring between these satellites. So how do we deal with those? Well, with a ghost record inserted in each one of them, we can say at December 2021, which record was apparent in each one of these satellites. We do find for our business key that there is an appropriate record that was active at that point in time for Sally Smith. And so for Sally, we know that that was her details. And so it helps us to then pinpoint the appropriate context. This is obviously with our time slice in mind. There is, however, only data flowing through 2022 onwards in our lifetime value satellite. So what do we do there? Well, technically, there is no data available before that. So defaulting to our ghost record in this case, for where you can't find an appropriate historical context, is perfectly correct, both technically and also semantically across the board. And this helps you to create a consistent timeline with correct results, allowing for equi-joins to happen in your data at high speed and facilitate both the staggering starts of your history and also enables the reporting structures like point-in-time or bridge tables to give you sterling performance.
Well, thank you, Nols. That was very interesting and very helpful indeed. To talk more about these subjects, please feel free to reach out on the Data Vault Innovators community. We have data experts like Nols and business leaders at all different stages of their data journey. Search for Data Vault Innovators community in your app store or on LinkedIn and uncover more great data conversations. Thanks for joining.